Good evening. We're going to call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Woburn Zoning Board of Appeals to order. I'd like to remind everyone in the audience that this hearing is being videotaped and audio taped, so please keep that in mind if you decide to approach the rail to address the board. To begin our hearing, I'd like everyone to please join me at the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda this evening is the petition of Ulta Beauty Heather Dutko Sousa Signs LLC, seeking a variance in connection with installation of awnings at 425 Washington Street.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Ronneberger. My address is 9061 Woodlark Terrace, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33472. I was here last month. I'm sure we all remember, right? And this is in reference to the awnings. So the one item that we had left, all the signs and stuff got addressed. The one item we have left is the awnings. And the one thing that was requested was sealed engineering from a structural engineer about the installation. So I have brought that for everyone to be able to see. And I can also hand it into the building department. And I have that. I have 2 copies of it if you guys would like to look at. And I can just tell you that it's by a structural engineer that does the wind loads and the calculations, and that's how, they go to install it for safety purposes.
All right, so you have 2 copies?
I do have 2 copies, yes.
And how many pages are those?
Oh, it's a lot. It's
All right, so it's going to be a lot for all 5 members of the zoning board to look at the 2 copies that you brought of a multi-page document as we're starting our hearing.
It's just, okay. I mean, it's an easy thing just to look at, just that it's sealed by an engineer here, and it just shows all the calculations and stuff and how they install and what the attachment methods are.
All right, you want to bring those 2?
Sure, I would be happy to.
I know that there were a couple members of the board who definitely indicated an interest in seeing more information about the awnings.
Yep.
Should I wait until?
Yeah, he can't take the notes.
When you're done.
Well, 2 and 2.
2 and 2?
Yeah, we'll share.
All right, thank you.
So again, just to refresh.
Hold on just a sec, because we can't, the clerk can't take any
Okay, I'm
minutes
sorry.
until he's seated.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Sorry, Gordon.
Just a quick question before you begin.
Sure.
Do you have any type of summary letter or a professional opinion which will digest all of this down and basically saying it's safe? That's pretty much what I was looking for, because this is in pretty, very technical language, and you have to be an engineer
It is.
really understand it.
It is certified by a gentleman, his name is Michael Soloway, and it says it on the plan there. It shows the height of the awning and the length of the awning on, I think it's the 2nd page of the first document, and I can show it exactly where it is on the paper, and it shows where the height and the length of the awnings are. And then those are just the structural calculations that he provided to us.
So the Soloway Engineering
Yes, that's correct.
pages? Okay, so I see, wind load and some calculations and TSF, pressure per square foot, or whatever that is.
Correct.
Pound per
It's
square.
pressure per square inch.
But again, do you have just a letter of some kind from this engineering firm?
I don't have an actual letter. I don't have a letter. That is what we pay for when we give somebody the plans that say, I want to put this 6-foot awning on this, and where the area it's in and everything. They provide those calculations to us, and we provide those to the building department, and then the structural reviewer reviews those plans. But it is certified with his state license.
Were these submitted to the building commissioner?
They were. They were originally last time, but I didn't have them with me here. They've been in review, I believe, since October. The building department has had them. I can show you,
Thank you.
And was there a separate petition for a variance for the awning prepared?
Yes.
I know it was certified.
Yes. there
Sorry,
was a
strike that.
separate-
I know it was
advertised-
published.
It was advertised and published properly, and the abutters were notified.
All right, do we have that petition for variance? Just for the awning?
It was just for the awnings, and it was advertised.
Sure. Or do you have a copy of the advertisement? Because my
I
memory,
do have a copy of the advertisement.
my
I just-
memory is that the code limits the height of the awning to 4 feet.
correct.
And the applicant wants to have a 6-foot-high awning, but I don't necessarily just want to rely on my memory.
It's just, it's
That is
somewhere here in
correct.
the ever-burgeoning file, so. There it is.
Thank you.
And those are the copies of the newspaper advertisements.
Sure. All right, so just so that the members of the board are aware that we gave the public notice that there is a new request for a variance at this location because the previous petition had only addressed the signs, not the awning, so it was necessary to have it, published to give notice. And the publication indicates that the petitioner is seeking a variance from section 13.7.2.5 for the installation of awnings larger than what is allowed at 425 Washington Street. Does anybody want to see this?
It's also reflected in the agenda, too.
Yeah.
Okay. So do any members of the board have any questions? Let me ask, is there anyone in the audience who cares to be heard in connection with this request for a variance to install awnings at Ulta Beauty at 425 Washington Street? How does the board wish to proceed? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, actually, I don't know. What's the hardship that the applicant's relying on to establish that it's entitled to a variance?
The hardship is that we spoke about this last month. So I had stated that first of all, it's the design of the building. It's the way that the building is proportioned, and I know that we had discussed this in depth last month when we were here, and I also did tell all of you that the awnings are made already, and I told you that that was an error on our part, and I would like to just ask for forgiveness for that, and that's why when we had spoke, I had asked about the engineering, and that, it would be structurally sound and safe, and that the clearance from grade is 9'5", and I know that code is 8, and we're even exceeding that, so that's why I was asking.
All right, so the statute that applies to variances requires this board to make a finding. We need to make a specific finding that owing to circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape, or topography of the land or structures, especially affecting the land or the structures, that a literal enforcement of the ordinance would involve a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, and that we could grant relief without substantial detriment to the public good or nullifying the intent of the bylaw. So the hardship is?
So I would say the hardship is the excessive setback from the road, as again, we spoke about it last month, that said that where, the way that the building is proportioned, and it is setback. I do have a smaller size sign than what Kohl's has currently, so, and I know that we had reduced that, and that is fine, and then we allowed for the sign on the side, and the other tenant, Kohl's, also does have illumination,
Sure,
and I
but
know they
we're talking
received.
about the awnings now, so
I
how does,
understand, so I'm talking
how
about
does the
the-
distance from the street justify an increase from
It's the
4
design.
feet to
It's
6
the-
feet?
It's the design of the branding for the client.
Any questions or discussion?
Well, unfortunately, I find myself in the same position I was last month. I was expecting something in English, in plain English, that I could understand that states that these awnings are going to be safe. Now, I see, I mean, there are pages and pages of charts and graphs and
It's from,
square roots and just all kinds of calculations, but it really doesn't say anything to me.
well, to the structural reviewer, it does. That's what the code states, and that's what they look for, and those are the things that they ask us for. So when we do provide that information, that is how they give us the structural information, and the installers know they have to install it based on what is in that report.
I understand and I believe you. I'm just saying what I was looking for,
I provided what, yeah.
that, you know, I'm trying to be sympathetic where you've stated they've already built and,
Yes,
you know, and
thank you.
I think I've tried to take into consideration, and I agree that, you know, whether it's the shape of the lot or the way the building's situated, you know, I guess I can see it so far back. You know, take these other things into account, but I just don't understand this report. It doesn't say anything.
I was under the impression that that's, and I'm sorry that I misunderstood. I was under the impression that that's what you were asking for, was
I'm
the,
sorry I wasn't clearer, and I don't, I'm speaking for myself here, but I don't think I'm the only one that, I think we were looking for some type of written report, similar to what we get in other cases, where there'll be a lot of supporting documentation, calculations, and things that a normal, regular person would understand if it is summarized in
I understand what
English.
you're saying.
So, I mean, right now, I'm in the same position I was last month. I just don't understand the report.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Member Robertson?
specifically, what, if I might, through the chair to my colleague, what issue, I don't understand what the issue is. And I'm sorry, I really have had problems with this whole petition. It's very complicated to a simple-minded person like me. But what specifically is the issue? Because when I left here last time, I thought that if the petitioner, the representative petitioner showed up, filed whatever they had, there was 4 votes to grant the whatever the permit.
Well, I'd have to go through the minutes verbatim, but my recollection of what I said, my position was that, first of all, the awning's supposed to be 4 feet high, and they're 6 feet high. So, the fact that they've already been built, I'm trying to be sympathetic to the petitioner, but I wanted to see something in writing stating that the increased size could handle the wind load and was safe for passers-by, that it was just going to be a safe structure. And the report that we got might say that, but I just don't know if it says that.
Well, the representative petitioner says that. You want something.
Where?
Oh, no,
I
woman
did,
says that.
I did say that, and it's also certified by an engineering firm that does
Understand
that.
In other words, she's making representation that, and, I mean, that's usually what we get is people, you know, and they're usually lawyers standing up there saying, what I understand to be basically unverifiable representations, a lot of times. But she's making that representation. Now, if you don't believe she's misrepresenting a situation, that's one thing. But I left here the last time thinking it was just a matter of, you
Well,
know,
no,
maybe I was relying.
I did as well.
I thought that's what I heard you say. That's what I thought I heard.
well, I'm sorry,
Oh,
and
so-
what are your qualifications in, like, the engineering field, for example?
Sure. In the engineering field, I don't. I'm a permit expediter. I've been working in the sign industry for 25 years, and I work for manufacturers, so I know how things are built. I know how things are installed, and I don't have an actual engineering license. That's why Mr. Soloway, who we use, is. He's our engineer. But we put the plans together, we show them what we're doing, where we're doing it. He does the calculations, he goes and gets the wind load, the snow loads, all of those things that he has to do. He puts it all together, he gives it back to us. We install it based on those plans with the anchoring method and all of that. And then the building department reviews those plans, and then they come out and do the inspections after the installation to make sure that what's on those plans is actually what's out in the field.
Yeah, so-
So
I'm just
I'm still
wondering.
of the same view as I was last month. The fact that the awnings have already been manufactured doesn't satisfy the legal standard. The fact that you think the awnings will look best this size doesn't satisfy the legal standard. Attorney, strike that. Member Ryan indicated that he had some concerns and he wanted some more information. And you've certainly provided us with information, but you provided us with engineering documents that are like 10 pages long with a small little 8.5 by 11 sheet at the beginning of our hearing. So there's no legitimate way that we could actually digest that all. And I will not be voting in favor of it.
But with all due respect and all fairness to the chair, you're not gonna vote for this, no matter what.
No, it doesn't meet the, in my view, it doesn't meet the legal
I understand
standard.
that, but just to be fair, that's, you know,
Sure, but that's why we have 5 people, and if anyone wants to make a motion, we'll take a vote on it. So how does the board wish to proceed?
Well, again, I think, just on my side here is, I wasn't concerned of these awnings in the front. My problem were the other ones on the side, which we've already gone through, the lighted signs there. So I would be for this petition, based as it is.
Thank you.
Is that a motion?
I'll make that a motion. So moved to grant the variance.
Is there a second?
Before
Sorry.
we get that far, I'm sorry, I can support this petition, but I do need to see something from the engineering company stating in plain English that these awnings, as designed, are safe. And if someone can point out to me where it says that on here, I'd be happy to vote for it tonight.
I will tell you that it is his seal that he put on there, his digital seal, that those plans are designed, they are not just standard plans. They were designed specifically for this location. That engineer put his license on the line that those plans will satisfy the request that we're doing here. And if it makes it, I don't know if this helps at all, but the building department, Mr. Quinn downstairs, he is the one, will give us the final say, and he's the one that issues the permit, and he's the one that is requesting that additional information to be able to view when he goes out and does the inspections. So that's
Okay,
all
so-
part of that process.
Would you be able to get a letter, and I don't know if this is acceptable, but have a letter from the engineering firm to accompany these drawings prior to,
Prior to issuance?
yes,
I can do that. I can have him say that the plans that submitted are in fact for this location, for this awning, for these awnings, would that be?
more than that,
No.
Okay,
they're safe.
So
Okay.
so my sense is that Member Ryan's concern is, listen, our ordinance says the awnings are supposed to be 5 feet high. Strike that. 4 feet high, maximum.
yes.
And now, these are much bigger awnings, right? Presumably, they're heavier. And I think Member Ryan's concern is, listen, there's going to be people walking under those. And I don't want you to have a much bigger awning that's 50% higher and who knows how much heavier, if it's going to pose a risk to people passing under it.
I understand. And
So that's I think, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think that's what he's looking for.
Exactly.
okay, I understand that, and listen, we're not engineers, right?
I'm sorry?
I said, we're not engineers, right? So that's what that document is for him, but I can have him break that down even further and write it in a letter format, if that's
Something-
acceptable.
Some type of narrative, which I think, I mean, when it comes to whether it's a 40B or, you know, a road study or traffic study, it usually is accompanied by some narrative.
Okay,
And that's all I'm looking for. Something that states in plain English that the awnings as designed are safe.
okay, I can do that.
That's it.
I can provide that.
Right.
Now, would it be provided prior to building department issuance? Because I have to go back to the engineer, obviously, and I know that we can't postpone again, correct?
Right?
We can. Right, do we have the signed agreement?
It's a new public hearing technically, so.
All
we
right,
could-
so if you want a continuance to get the information that would satisfy Member Ryan, we can continue this. We have a form that you
I
would need
filled
to
out last
sign.
time,
Right.
yes.
And then, yeah, then there would be no problem to continue it.
May I just ask, how does everybody else feel? May I ask, so I know how Member Ryan feels, but
Yeah, I agree with that,
And-
Member Ryan.
Member, okay, and your Member Parrish is fine?
Yeah, I made a motion to approve it.
I know, but I'm covering
But
my
I-
bases here.
Just through the chair, if perhaps if you do get that letter, you can scan it and send it off via email
Mm-hmm.
to our clerk, and then he can distribute it out to us, so we get it before the meeting, or any
Sure.
other documents you might have too. So we can,
Okay,
look
absolutely, I
at
can
it.
do that.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, so do you want to request a continuance?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Want to set the date of the meeting? I believe the third Wednesday is the 19th.
I know, the flight here from West Palm is getting very, very convenient.
Madam
The
Chair, can I ask a
17th, wait a minute. What month are we in? April.
We're in-
I'm
we're
getting
in-
ahead of myself, sorry.
We're in March right now, and April 19th, I think, is the third
Yep.
Wednesday.
Does that work for everybody?
Jennifer, can I keep a copy of this? And I'll give
Absolutely.
you the other one back?
No, you can keep them both if you'd like.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works for me.
That's great. You better check, what about the absent
April 19th?
temporary member or whatever it is?
Okay.
April 19th?
How does the board wish to proceed on the request to continue this matter to April 19th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, so this matter is continued to the
Madam
19th.
Chair, before she is, can I just ask you a question?
Of course.
It seemed to me at the original public hearing, a couple of meetings ago, there was multiple aspects to this petition. So as things come down, everything's been withdrawn except for this for variance on these.
The request for internal illumination was withdrawn, and then we voted on the variance requests for the size of the signs.
That passed.
Yeah.
So the only thing that's left over is the size of the,
Awning, correct.
That's
Okay.
it, everything else, okay, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
all right, we're all set, thank you. The next item on our agenda is the petition of Patricia and Patrick Dillon, 161 Burlington Street, in connection with the request to raise and replace a single-family home at 161 Burlington Street.
There is a letter authorizing the attorney to
Oh,
represent
thank you.
the petitioner.
Good evening, Chair Pinkham and members of the board. I'm here, my name is Joseph Papetti, I'm an attorney, and I'm representing the petitioners, Patricia and Patrick Dillon, in regard to this matter. Obviously, the plans and everything have already been submitted to you. I want to briefly just give you some background as to the petitioners. Patricia and Patrick Dillon currently live at the property at 161 Burlington Street. In fact, Patrick Dillon is a lifetime resident of Woburn. He's lived in that house almost his entire life. They live there with their two young children, a daughter 3 years old and a son 5 years old. And they also live there with Patrick's mother, who has a respiratory illness and rheumatoid arthritis. They have been living there for quite some time. And in fact, Mr. Dillon also runs a business in Woburn. So they're committed to raising their children and living in this town. In regard to that, the property we're discussing tonight is 161 Burlington Street. Now, 161 Burlington Street, to the best we can tell, was constructed around 1935. It has always been a single-family residence. The current Dillon family that is there has been living there for over 30 years. And it is the same, with minor modifications, the same single-family home that they lived in for most of that period. It currently is a non-conforming structure because there is an issue with the frontage, despite the fact that it's a decent-sized lot at 13,000 some odd square feet. It is oddly shaped, and so it only has 57 point, and a little over 57 or 58 feet of frontage on 100 requirement. But that's been the case since it was first built there. And as I say, as it now stands and exists, it also has a sideline issue that it's non-conforming. What the petitioners are seeking to do is to raise the house that's there and build a new one. The new house as built would obviously still have the same frontage issue. There's nothing that can be done about that. But the side issue that is non-conforming now, they would be doing away with. There would be a 12-foot side yard on both sides, which would actually make this a less non-conforming structure and lot once they were done. Now, their plan is to build a 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath modern house. As far as detrimental impacts, this structure would be an asset to the community. It would be the same people living in a new single family, so that the nature and use there is not going to change. It should not have any significant impact on water and sewer usage, ingress, egress, or traffic, because it's going to be the same 5 people that are living there now. In fact, with the new structure will come low-flow water facilities, more efficient appliances and so forth. So hopefully it will be a greener structure, and it will be certainly no more of an incursion on the municipal utilities. Additionally, it will be a modern house that will be more aesthetically pleasing, hopefully, to the neighborhood. So impact on all of those initial considerations that the board must examine should not exist. As far as the scale, character, and visual and aesthetic effects that are also to be considered, obviously this will be a somewhat larger house, and so that is a minor issue. But given that it's going to be a modern, well-designed, coherent structure that has been significantly engineered and done by competent architects, it will be built by builders that are from Woburn, understand the rules, understand the requirements, and understand the nature of the community. All of that should be a significant asset. Now, some of the things that I thought you might want to discuss and that I thought I would address in advance, this is going to be a bulkhead into the basement. It will not be a walkout basement. There is not going to be a second kitchen or anything like that. This will make the grandmother, if you will, it would make her life a little easier because her bedroom would now be on the first floor. But other than that, there's no significant impact in that regard. In addition to all the information that you've already had and everything that I've indicated, I also was given tonight letters from 3 people that are abutters, the 2 people that live across the street and the 2 homes across the street, and the neighbor on one side have all provided letters, and I've made copies for the board members if you would like to take a look at those. And as I say, that's from their abutting neighbors. Thank you. So that is basically the nature of the proposal here, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to respond to them.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Mr. Papetti, you did anticipate my question about how the basement's going to be accessed. The plans that are submitted make reference to an optional bulkhead?
That is what is intended to be built, Madam Chairperson. I checked both with the architect and with the petitioners in regard to that. I think it's actually on page 4 of the plans, but it shows the bulkhead, and that is the bulkhead they will be building.
Well, on page 3 with the foundation plan, that's where it says optional bulkhead
Yes,
location.
that will be the actual bulkhead.
Okay. And so the applicants would be fine with a condition that requires a bulkhead as opposed to a, separate staired entrance, enclosed entrance?
Absolutely.
How many bedrooms are in the existing
The
structure?
existing structure is 3 bedrooms. The new structure would be 4 bedrooms.
I think actually the new structure has 5 bedrooms because there's that bedroom on the first floor and the 4 bedrooms on the second floor.
And that may be I believe you're right, and I believe I failed to interpret the
Sure, no
plan
worries.
correctly.
So when I looked at these plans, and I appreciate the fact that the family's, mother or grandmother lives with them and her bedroom's gonna be on the first floor, because when I looked at these plans, I marked it that it looks like an in-law apartment.
Right. And there's no plan to put a kitchen in, there's not going to be a stove or anything else.
Yeah, so
And
my question, though, because this indicates, this plan has a door entrance to the area that's identified as sitting wet bar. My understanding of the building commissioner's interpretation of what we call an in-law apartment, even though there's no such thing under our zoning code, is that there needs to be like a framed opening. And I think we had an issue in the past with, it wasn't in the context of an in-law apartment, but we had an issue in the past with a property owner installing like a door. I have a memory of a split entry that the owner was using as a two-family, and they had installed a door to separate the first and second floors, and so that led to a whole enforcement issue. But I'm raising it now because we have a set of standard conditions that we typically adopt when there's a large, structure or a large addition that has an in-law apartment to conform with how the building department interprets it. And my memory is that we say there needs to be like a cased opening that is not closed off. And so that's why I wanted to ask you, if it is kind of intended to be, essentially like an in-law apartment so that the grandmother can have her own separate space, but there might be an issue with this door that's shown on the plans between what's identified as the family room on one side and the sitting area on the back, where that first floor bedroom is.
Right. First of all, if I'm just to respond generally.
Sure.
It's my understanding, and I've talked to the petitioner, his mother, and the other people involved in the project, that it is not her intention to have an in-law apartment type situation, that she is going to be sharing in the same family spaces and everything that everyone else is using. She's very active with her grandchildren, spends a lot of time with them, so there's no intention that it be an in-law apartment.
Okay.
That's why the bulkhead and some of the other things were done, just so that could be a little clearer.
Sure, yeah, we do, I mean, typically, if there's a set of stairs into the basement, and the
Right.
basement's set up in a way that looks like it could
Right,
be
and that's
used.
understandable.
Right, but given that this had the first floor bedroom and the wet bar, or whatever it's called, and the
Right.
sliding doors, access to the deck, it looks like an in-law. All right, let me just see if I had any other notes. right, I think that's all the questions I have. Any other members of the board have any questions?
No question.
Then let me ask, is there anyone in the audience who cares to be heard in connection with this request for a special permit at 161 Burlington Street?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Liz Dillon. I reside at 63 Sheridan Street, Woburn, and I own 80A and B Sheridan Street, Woburn, which directly abuts the subject property on the northerly side. I'm in support of the special permit and ask that you grant this approval. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Vincent. My name is Tommy Skeffington. I live at 9 Bamberg Drive, which is not a direct abutter, but I am right around the corner. I feel like a direct abutter because I walk down the circle every night. Couple points I would like to make is directly across the street from the proposed 50-foot frontage is, this board 2 years ago granted the house directly across the street variances for either side and a special permit for 50 feet of frontage. And I believe that one of the biggest aspects to this project is they're taking a current non-conforming lot and making it, they're conforming with an exception of the 50 feet of frontage, which I'm sure will be set back. I don't know,
Yes.
but I'm sure will be set back a little bit anyway. And it's not a crazy busy street, so as far as traffic goes. And just a couple other things is, and I think are very important. Down in our area, we call it, well, you guys will know, the flats, all right? Well, in 1998, when I moved in there, I called it Dillon Country, because everywhere you looked, there was a Dillon, all right? And I was fortunate to know Pat's grandfather from the high school since I was 2 years old. His cousin just built right on Sheridan Street 2 years ago, and I believe the same builder is doing the Pat's project too. And it should be noted that, you know, it's finished extremely strong. The property, Liz's daughter's and her husband's property is absolutely beautiful, what they did. And not only that, and I think that you know, it should also be brought up is, you know, they've been in the city their whole life, the whole Dillon family, as we know. 3 years ago, right, I think Pat and his partners took on a massive project and became a business owner in the city of Woburn. And he is part owner of Sam Walker's down on Montville Ave. And any youth organization, high schools, whatever, you can go to Sam Walker's, and Pat's the first one to donate whatever he wants to donate, whatever they ask for. And I think that's important. I really do. Those are the type of people that you want in Woburn, that we want to keep in Woburn. So I am in favor, and Trish, you know, is going to be very helpful for Pat's mother to be living with them. There's no living change anyway as far as the occupants go, but I just think it would make a little bit of a better life for her. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else who cares to be heard? Mr. Papetti, I have another question. I don't know, is there a plan for the attic? It's a walk-up attic, right?
I believe so.
That was, apparently, that was the other note that I didn't see. So on page 8,
Yeah.
it looks like a walk-up attic.
I'm not an architect, and I was not too involved with the
Nor
plans.
am I.
But I believe you're right.
Okay. And so is that just for storage? Because I don't see any windows or
No,
anything.
yes, that's
on
just
the
for
facade.
storage.
All right. Again, because I feel like we've had issues with other applicants that had walk-up attics, and then did things and had to come back to this board, I now ask whenever I see
And
a
they've
walkout.
expanded this property with the idea in mind that they didn't have to do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
The basement and the attic would be the junk collector that all of us have used in our houses.
Oh, no, it's all very important personal property. How does the board wish to proceed? Any questions or further discussion?
I make a motion that permit be granted.
Second,
Any conditions?
the usual,
Okay.
yep.
You
All in-
mentioned a bulkhead as well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so the standard conditions for this, so the standard conditions are this property is a single-family property. It's not going to be used as a two-family property. You know, there will be no separate dwelling unit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And condition about that the entry to the basement will be through a bulkhead.
That's
Okay.
acceptable.
All right, all in favor?
Right.
Okay, so that passed. A decision needs to be prepared and filed with the clerk's office, and as you know, there's a 20-day appeal period, and that no building permit would issue until that appeal period expires.
And if I may, Madam Chair, just to the board and to you, I'm unlikely to be before the Woburn Board of Appeals too many more times. I want to say that it's been a pleasure dealing with you folks, and the supporting players also have been great, efficient, fair, and, you know, I just think it's a great
Through the
job that
chair,
you're doing.
you've made an excellent presentation, Counselor, and the board appreciates that.
Again, as I say, unfortunately, I probably won't be back many times. I'm kind of getting out of this, but
If you do come back, you're very welcome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for the kind words. The next item on the agenda is the petition of John Vining, 160 Montvale Ave, seeking a variance for a detached two-car garage with a height greater than 20 feet. Hi, welcome.
Hi. I think my request for a special permit is much more simple than what we've just experienced. I am proposing a two-car detached garage.
So you're Mr. Vining, right?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
please, sorry, I don't know what's going on with the microphones, but we have this listed as you seeking a variance, and I don't know if anyone's communicated.
I have communicated with the building department. It's incorrect. It's actually a special permit.
Well, actually, it can't be a special permit because you're asking to exceed, you filed a petition for a special permit, but because you're asking this board to exceed the 20-foot height requirement, we can't give that relief with a special permit, because that creates a new, it would be non-conforming. And so you would need a variance, we would need to, I don't know why I'm having trouble speaking tonight. We would need to, we can't let you create a new nonconformity on your property without a variance.
Okay.
And so I know that this is something that was discussed internally when your application was reviewed. The building commissioner thought it was a variance. When I looked at your petition for a special permit, I went, oh, I don't think we can do this for you. So I conferred with city council, and so there's a consensus, at least between myself, city council, and the building commissioner, that this board can't give you permission to build a garage that's higher than 20 foot with a special permit. It would have to be with a variance.
Okay.
All right, and so there's a different legal standard for a variance.
I'm familiar with that.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, so I wanted you to understand, and that's why, so the city, when the city published your request for relief to notify everybody, it was advertised as a variance request, and it's on our agenda as a variance request, so that's
Yeah,
why.
As soon as I saw that advertisement, I immediately reached out to the building department and Mr. Vincent and said, wait a second, I was informed by the building department that it's a special permit, but you've corrected us on that, so,
Okay,
fine.
okay, so I just wanted to be sure that you, I didn't know how much you'd been informed.
Just through the chair, did you say you consulted the city solicitor?
Yes, I did,
She agrees it should be a variance?
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've been very blessed to be in residential architecture for a long time, so I've dealt with so many different towns, and it is very difficult to navigate everybody's different zoning bylaws, so I do understand the difference between the two. I was coming today anticipating a request for a special permit, but now I'll request a variance, so I'm open to talk about it.
All right, well, I don't know if you were here before, but everyone really loves when I read from the statute. So the board, in order to grant a variance, the board needs to make a finding that there are conditions, circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape, or topography of your land or structures that especially affect your land or structures such that a literal enforcement of the bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, and that we could grant the relief that you're seeking without substantially, diminishing the intent of the
Right.
bylaw. So I would be interested in hearing what are the circumstances that relate to the real estate that you think justify exceeding the height limit that the city council has set for garages.
Okay, I'll answer that as best I can. What I'm proposing, first of all, is a two-car detached garage. It meets setbacks, it meets the lot coverage, it meets the square foot limitation. The only thing that I'm requesting relief for is the height, which she just explained. I do not have a hardship on my property in regards to topography or shape of the lot. So I don't meet that requirement. I don't meet a hardship requirement. What I do have that I'm proposing is a garage that will be not seen from a public way. I have 4 abutters who are the only abutters that have a direct line of sight to the garage. And I reached out to them individually. I showed them the design, and I told them what I wanted to do, and they said we have no opposition whatsoever, and I did include those people in that application. I also took the opportunity to send a couple of additional photos, potentially from the end of my driveway, just to show that this is a structure that won't be seen by anybody. So that's pretty much it. The reason why I'm actually asking for the height, relief for the height, is I was fortunate on a recent project that I worked on to be able to get a number of building materials from a house that was demolished. So I was able to get some really expensive garage doors that are taller, which is going to save me a lot of money. And I was able to get some doors and windows from that particular project. So when I saw that opportunity to grab some of those items before they got thrown away, I incorporated those items into the design. So the garage doors that I'm getting had a track system that were in a higher ceiling in a previous garage. So I'm just trying to salvage that equipment and reuse that. So that's pushing the height of the structure up more than what's allowed.
So the plans show that the garage doors are 8 feet high?
8 feet high, yep.
Okay.
They were on a really, in the previous home that was removed, the ceiling was much higher. So the track system was custom built for that higher ceiling. So my intention is to build the ceiling the same height so I can reuse all of that equipment. And the second floor of the garage is simply unfinished storage. I'm a tall guy, and I have 5-foot knee walls, and on the understanding that it was a special permit and going through this process before, I felt like this was something that was worth exploring for me.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me ask, any members of the board have any questions?
I've got one.
Go ahead.
Is there a garage already on the property, in the house?
In the house, yes, I have an attached garage in the house, currently filled with my wife's car and toys.
How many bays are in that?
I have 2 bays that are on the upper part of the house, and I have 2 bays that are underneath as you turn around and go behind. It's very unique. It's a really old farmhouse. Yeah, no one will know it because I'm set back from the street.
Currently got 4 garage doors.
I do.
What is is the intent for the new structure? Is this going to be used for commercial purposes?
No. It's joy of vintage antique cars that I have. My wife doesn't share the same joy, but I have multiple antique cars, and this will be my spot for those cars.
I'm sorry, through the chair. Did you say antique cars?
Vintage cars, yes.
No, how does the cars relate to the height of the building?
It doesn't. The reason why I'm requesting the additional height is because of the materials that I've been able to salvage from that other home that was removed. So I'm just trying to save money on garage doors and equipment.
I thought you were gonna put a second story in the garage and put the cars on the second
Yeah,
floor.
yeah. You got a lift system, he salvaged.
Someday I do want to have a
Matter of
lift.
fact, I saw a segment of, that show, which I absolutely loved, the American Pickers, and they had to take, there was an antique car on the second floor of a garage, and they had to take it down to the first floor.
I saw it. It was a blue Volkswagen Bug. I've seen all the
That
episodes.
sounds like what you want to do. Unfortunately, wherever that was,
Yeah.
they didn't have a 20-foot, what's that, what do we have, 20
20,
foot
yeah.
maximum height? Yeah?
Yep.
The one thing is that I enjoy about being in the neighborhood, I've been here for about 25 years. I was very saddened by the house on the corner of Montvale and Ingalls that got the variance to remove their barn to build a new house, and that was a couple of years ago. So my view of that property, I was able to look at that barn, and it was sad to have that be removed. So what I'm proposing this barn to be is I want to build it so that it looks like a vintage barn that used to belong to the house. So that's my intention, to make it look historically correct, even though no one will really be able to see it. It's just for my use. So in regards to negative impact in the neighborhood, there isn't any.
Well, the problem is the lot, not specifically what you want to do, but the problem is the lot. I mean, you acknowledge there's no hardship, correct?
Correct. I came here with the intention that, on the understanding this was a special
You thought
permit.
it was a special permit.
I have this memory, although I can't lay my fingers on it right now, I'm gonna ask the board. I have a memory of having, is there something in the code about having more than one garage?
I think it's, if you can't have more than 2 detached structures.
Because I know we've had issues in the past with people who had multiple garages, but that was also, it was also a location that had 2 lots that had not been consolidated.
We had a case on Campbell Street,
No, and then we had a similar issue with the property, that they kept the huge barn in the back, but they built right on Lexington Street.
Oh, yeah,
That needed relief, I believe.
the big blue house, and it has the original barn
Yeah,
behind
but
it.
I can't, Mr. Parrish, do you have any, you usually have like.
The
a
only
much
one I
better-
always remember was the carriage house. We had a carriage house on Arlington Road.
One with the swimming pool down off of Salem Street. That's the one I remember, but it got denied. But it was a request for a pool.
Yeah, no, I
I did have a friend that wanted me to design a separate garage for him, and I learned through the building department, you couldn't have 2 detached structures.
yeah, maybe that's it. Let me look at I was just trying to look at my emails from the building commissioner. We're in an R1 zone, right? Let me ask, is there anyone else in the audience who cares to be heard in connection with this request for a variance at 160 Montvale Ave? How does the board wish to proceed?
I
So
would
I-
support this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would too. I just want to say, though, I don't know if I've ever voted for height variance before. I can't remember. It might be, I'll be able to do it, with this detached structure. But being here as long as we have, I don't think I've ever voted for a height variance.
Today's a great day to start.
Yeah, so, Mr. Vining, this may not surprise you, but I appreciate that you've been very forthright, but I don't think your desire to reuse that special track system meets the legal standard that would justify a 5-foot increase in the height. But, that's why we have 5 members of the board.
I just had an additional question. I mean, I'm kind of torn on this one. I haven't heard any objections from neighbors. My main concern was commercial use.
Right.
So would you be willing to stipulate that it will not be used for commercial purposes
Absolutely.
and that the structure will not be used as a dwelling unit?
Oh, yes, of course, yeah, it won't be. I can submit in however you wish in writing. I could send a letter to Mr. Vincent and however you think it would work.
Just,
Well, and it would be, if the board votes in favor of it, so Member Ryan suggesting that these be express conditions
Okay.
to any decision.
And just another thing, with the way I vote, I think if somebody snuck in there at the middle of the night and built a shed that's too high or a garage, I don't know how I'd be, but I think this petition, I can vote for it.
All right, is there a motion?
Did you make a motion?
No, no.
So a motion to approve the variance.
Is there a second? Oh, I'm sorry, you know what? And the motion, I think I'm assuming, but I want it to be clear,
With the
With the
that the
conditions.
motion is the condition that it not be used for commercial purposes or as a separate dwelling unit.
Correct.
Yes, okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the pending motion?
Right?
Opposed? Okay, so that did not pass. You needed 4 of the 5 members you need a supermajority. So your request for a variance has been denied.
All right, so what I can do is I can change the design and lower the roof to meet the height requirement, and then I can build it by right.
Then you can build it by right.
Yeah.
Yes?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much,
All
guys.
right, good luck with it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. The next item on our agenda is the petition of Angela and Arcangelo Parziali, 23 Day Circle, seeking a special permit to raise and replace a single-family home at 23 Day Circle. Hi, welcome.
Good evening. I'm the petitioner, Angela Parziali. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over a cold, so.
No worries.
It's a little froggy today. My family has lived in Woburn it will be 17 years in May. We're a family of 5. My husband and I, we have 3 children, 1 at the high school, 1 at the middle school, and 1 still at the elementary school. So we're running all around town all the time. And we have currently 3 bedrooms, with the boys sharing 1, and 1 shower, 1 bath. And we have been looking to find something that would be a better size for my family. My entire extended family lives in Pennsylvania. I came here for college and never came home. My husband's family is in the North End. They have a bakery there. That's where he works. So we also wanted some space where my parents, who are recently retired, could come and see their grandkids and not have to pay for a hotel every time they came. And none of us wants to leave Woburn. 17 years, we're definitely Woburnites now. My kids are very happy in their schools, and there really isn't a lot available in terms of new houses. We enjoy our neighborhood immensely. This is a new process for me, and my neighbors had all gotten their postcards and were excited for us. So if you do need any sort of support, I quite frankly could probably text them and have them come down the street and show their support. You know, I was walking our dog around the block, and there were neighbors on the other side that were, you know, congratulatory and excited for the process. So I know we have neighborhood support if you do need to see it. But in looking at homes, there, you know, the market was quite crazy over the past couple of years. There just was not anything that fit us, and the very new construction we were priced out of. The $1.4 million new homes in Woburn wasn't, you know, a good fit for us either. And in owning our home, I think the records that you pulled, Andy, my architect here, will introduce himself in a minute, but I think it referenced a build time of 1967. I thought when we bought the home back in 2006 that they told us it was built in 58, but regardless, it's quite an old home, and there are a lot of issues with it. So considering an addition rather than new construction, there were a lot of obstacles and problems. The sewer lines are cast iron, and we're having, like, the neighbor's tree roots are growing in, and we're gonna have to have those replaced. There were so many bits and pieces to the puzzle that ultimately the only thing that made sense for us to stay in the neighborhood that we loved, in the various schools that we loved, so nobody had to change schools, and to get the right size house for our family was to consider a new construction plan. So that's what we did, and that's what brings us here tonight.
Hi, I'm Andy Rojas from the architectural firm Rojas Design. And obviously, what, you know, in our petition and our, for the special permit, there's two issues. One is the existing non-conforming lot size. It's currently 11,078 square feet, where 12,000 is required. And the other relief that we seek is that the existing non-conforming front yard setback of 20.5 feet, that we'd like to live with that in the new plan going forward. 25 feet is the requirement. The lot is pie-shaped. It's very difficult to design a new home there, given when you look at the building footprint requirements of zoning. We tried to position the house in a way that it would work well with the street and also afford them the most usable backyard as possible. One of the things that I'm sure you'll note is the basement. It's a fitness facility. One of the things Angela didn't mention is all her kids and her husband are very heavily into physical fitness and athletics. And one of the things the basement will be is a fitness center that they will all use. It's one of the reasons that, you know, and this might come up, one of the reasons that you see that exterior stair going down to the basement and not a bulkhead. One of the reasons you see that is because of the opening required. It's a double door down there. Opening required to get the equipment in and out. And also to be able to service the mechanical equipment that's going in there. So that's why the basement is that way. The new design has 5 bedrooms, and it's got a den in the attic. The other part about the basement that I didn't mention is no windows. So it will never be bedroom or, you know, any kind of habitable bedroom space. It's purely for media, entertainment for her growing family, and for the physical fitness component. In the attic, her husband, Angelo, has a den where he does his, you know, business and, you know, personal, you know, relaxing.
That's his man cave.
The man cave, that's what it is.
That's what it is.
I like him on the 3rd floor, frankly.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure. So I think I figured it out, but I'm looking at, hold on a sec. Mr. Vincent was kind enough to print out another copy of these plans for me, so now I think I have notes on two separate plans. But my question is that all right, so I am looking at, I have this version of the survey.
The survey
with
plot
the
plan, yeah.
outline.
Yeah.
And my note on this is that the setbacks don't match LO1. So now when I go to look at LO1,
No, it's 20.5.
so I'm looking at the setback, the,
I mean, it's 20 feet 6 inches on LO1.
yeah, but that's not my question. I'm looking at the side setbacks.
Oh,
That's okay, I didn't say it, so you don't have to read my mind. The plan, the certified plot plan says the side setback on the eastern lot line is 15.6.
yes.
All right, but then I go and I look at L1, and it's 15.2, and I think that's because of the roof overhang, but I'm not sure.
Yes, and the one that is actually controlling is the registered surveyor's site plan. But yes, you're right, and the same is true on the western.
You're right,
side,
where it says,
it's off by .1.
well, so the plot plan says 12.1, but then
LO1
and I couldn't, yeah, so I see the 12, what's the 14.3
14.3.
on LO1?
Yeah, where on LO? Oh,
Right above the
no,
12.
That is the underlying survey, that was the existing.
Oh, all right, well, that explains it. All right. So, the certified plot plan has the front setback of 20.6. And the topographic plan,
Which
so
one?
I don't, so let me tell you, so what I try to do is I always try to compare, and usually they're on two separate, sometimes they're superimposed. So some surveyors will give us a plot plan, and it will have like a shadow outline of the original structure, and then we can see the proposed structure on top of it. So this plot plan doesn't do it.
Right, but there was an existing site plan included.
So there's a topographic plan,
Right.
a big topographic plan. It's like the third or fourth sheet,
Yeah,
but it's not stamped. But, so this unstamped topographic plan has the front setback of the existing structure at 20.5, right?
and the proposed one is 20.6.
Okay, so that's just a little tiny variation. I am concerned about the staired entrance to the basement. I'm not being critical of you, but unfortunately, since we've been here doing this for a while, we see people do all kinds of things. And so what I tell applicants is, love that you have the workout and the sauna and whatever you're gonna have in the basement. That's great. More power to you. 40 years from now, you may not live in that house. It may have changed hands 3 times. I don't want to see that get turned into a separate apartment because that would violate zoning. So we have developed a practice when we see, beautiful large new homes or, big additions with a walk-in basement that we put in conditions that says, hey, it's an R1. It's never going to be an R2. So the fact that we're approving this relief doesn't mean you get to turn it into a separate dwelling unit. It's not intended, again, as like to cast aspersions. It's just, we only have one chance to.
I have no problem.
To, to
I don't care
regulate
what
this.
people 3 houses down
And
want
the-
to do. It's not our intent, and I have zero
Sure,
problem with
but
that.
I want to be upfront,
Yep.
because that's what we will put it in as a condition.
Yep.
And that's gonna, that's gonna govern this property for.
Absolutely, but,
for the
and
next
the other,
however many
the other
years.
point related to that is the basement, like I mentioned, has no windows. It
Understood.
really would be impossible to make that a bedroom situation.
No, so I was
No, that's
looking at,
fine.
I was looking at other plans that got withdrawn today that had, full-size windows
Oh.
in the basement, so that was a concern. I think that's all of my questions. Let me ask if there's anybody else on the board who has any questions or comments.
I guess, what is the footprint of the existing improvements vis-à-vis what's proposed in terms of square footage?
The footprint or the total square footage of living area?
Oh, footprint.
The footprint?
I thought it was
Yeah.
there, but I'm
Well,
not.
yeah, so those
I thought it
dimensions,
was there, but I'm not smart enough to figure it out.
they're not, the dimensions of the footprint is not on the topographic plan.
No, you're right. It's not on the existing topo plan from Rover. So it's hard for,
Oh, give me your estimate. How much bigger is
the actual
No,
footprint.
no,
The actual footprint itself is not a lot bigger than what's existing.
you say not a lot?
Okay, it's
What is
probably,
a lot?
okay, let me say, I'd say it's less than 400 square feet bigger. Because it's not as wide as the existing house. It's a little longer, but it's not as wide. So at most, it's that.
Yeah, and there's some kind of notches.
Right, and there's some notches that really are not building area.
So it's about, the new proposed house would be about 400 feet, 400 square feet bigger.
In terms of footprint.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have one question here on the larger drawings we got today.
Yeah.
G-01, code narrative and zoning, it says use group R3.
I don't know where you are.
G-01.
It's a residential use group, yes. But zoning is
Oh, sorry. It's the
And the
first
zoning,
page.
okay, I see it now.
That's from the building code, the residential, the use group.
Building code.
This building will be classified as an R3. It will comply with all the regulations for an R3, so that's kind of leading me off a little bit. If that's what it is, that's fine.
Because the confusion between the Woburn zoning code of an R3 versus the state building code.
Is different.
Building classification is an R3.
Got it,
We're
thank you.
referring to the state building code.
Got it, thank you. That's all I had, thank you.
Just had one, and forgive me if you mentioned this already, 'cause I've been reading this, but for the life of me, I can't find the building height.
Oh, yeah. It's on there.
It was 30 point something.
Is this the one that was like 32.5?
If you look at sheet A09, which is the front elevation, and if you look on the right-hand set of notes there, it says
Ridge
ridge
height.
height, elevation 30 feet, 8 inches.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But then, but that's to the first floor. If you go down to where it says first floor, 0.0, and then it says finished grade, 1.8. So the finished ridge height at the uppermost level is 32.6.
Right, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who cares to be heard in connection with this request for a special permit at 23 Day Circle? How does the board wish to proceed?
Make a motion to approve the special permit with our normal R1 condition.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of the pending motion?
Aye.
Okay. So I think that passed, although I wasn't looking. So a decision needs to be prepared and filed in the city clerk's office. There's a 20-day appeal period, so no building permit would issue until after that appeal period expires without anyone appealing it, okay?
Thank you
so
very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good luck.
This is why we really don't have a business skill into the design of the building. Pass the code.
The next item on our agenda was the petition of Newport Realty LLC, seeking a special permit to raise and replace a two-family home at 11 Mishawam Road. We received correspondence from Attorney Salvati. I don't know if everyone saw it, but we had a letter this afternoon, I guess. Request is made for leave to withdraw the special permit petition filed for 11 Mishawam Road without prejudice. So how does the board wish to, well, first let me ask, is there anyone in the audience who was here to address the board for 11 Mishawam Road? All right, how does the board wish to proceed with
Just
this?
a question.
Sure.
I got it here, but I filed away. What's the date on the request for, on Mr. Salvati's letter?
Today.
Today? I just would, just for the record, if there were people that, members, if abutters or members of the public showed up to address on this, and in other words, they didn't know that it was gonna be
Sure.
withdrawn, I don't think I'd grant leave to, no, I don't think I would vote for leave to withdraw, but in view of fact, there's nobody there.
All right, how does the board wish to proceed?
I'll make a motion that it matter be given leave to withdraw.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so the request for leave was granted. The next item on our agenda is the approval of meeting minutes from February. I had made a few. Edits, one on page 4 and one on page 5. I don't know if anybody had any others, but I'll give mine to
Thank you.
Mark.
That's gone. It's not
I believe I had any.
I sent it via email, but not everybody has gotten hard copies.
No, not yet. I think the first Monday of April.
And then, so, I'm sorry, did anybody else have any edits? Then I'd ask for a motion to accept the meeting minutes as revised.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Then the last item on our agenda is any other matter. We don't have anything else on our agenda, but I did want to alert the board that, and I'm not sure if anyone's looked at it. I received it, but I hadn't looked at it. But the 1042 Main Street has come up with a design for the pumping station, the Woburn Heights development. So down at the bottom, you know, where the main entrance, they had that pumping station, and they wanted to put a design on it, and so apparently they've come up with a design, and I think at our next meeting, we'll address whether, you know, we're fine with the design, or if they want us to, you know, if we want them to appear, or whatever, so I just wanted to highlight that.
So is this the, somewhat of a petition?
Well, it's not,
Those are the renderings that were sent over by Attorney
yeah, there's
Haverty.
nothing formal before us, but I wanted,
Fortunately, they look much better in colors.
oh, are these your?
That's the original. Unfortunately, I printed them out in black and white, so.
Yeah, but I think,
So they going to Vietnam, or
no,
what
yeah,
are
I
they doing?
think you should, were they emailed?
They were emailed,
So
yes.
they were emailed, they're in color in the email.
Oh, did we get them?
It does make a, you know, seeing them in black and white doesn't
It
really.
was yesterday, Monday.
I think it was Monday. but
I may have emailed them just to you, though. I
Oh,
think, 'cause-
I don't-
yeah, You know
I didn't
what?
open it, so.
I'm, now that my recollection is I emailed them just to you because Attorney Haverty was interested in your
Sure.
opinion, whether this was gonna go on an agenda.
Yeah, I don't know,
Or-
so if you could circulate them in color. to
I will
everybody.
circulate them in color because you really have to see them in color to appreciate them.
Yeah, and so we're not, we're not gonna deliberate or take any action on them.
Should I tell Attorney Haverty to attend the next meeting, or?
I think he probably should, because we can't
Right,
deliberate
exactly.
and take any
Right.
action, so.
He was anxious to get a sort of, what sense
Well,
of the board is.
that may be, but we
No,
we
if
can
you
only.
should come in next meeting. or-
Exactly.
He wanted to come in tonight, but it wasn't,
Yeah,
it was a little soon.
okay.
So this is basically gonna be a substantial change issue?
No, my memory is, and I hadn't gone back to look, but they, I think, at least wanted to run it by the board. I kind of remember saying, like, we're not, I don't know that our authority over the 40B project extends to, like, review, we're not engineers, we're not artists, but I think they're giving us the courtesy,
I think that summarizes it.
sharing it with us,
Appropriately.
because if we all say, oh my God, like, we hate this, they might want to change it, but,
Yeah.
I don't know if it rises to the level of notifying the abutters next door who.
yeah, and I'd
I
honestly,
should
because
probably send that to them.
I
too,
haven't,
just to
well,
them too, so.
yeah,
'Cause they're the ones who are gonna have to look at
Right.
it.
yeah. Anyway, so keep an eye out for that. All right, so I think, having nothing further to discuss, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All right, we are adjourned until next month.